It's about the twins. I saw something upstairs and I don't know what to do. Grace explained nervously. I was downstairs making lunch when I heard noises coming from Ellie's room. When I went to check, Ethan ran out, and Ellie, she wasn't wearing any clothes. Lisa stared at her sister, disbelief washing over her. What are you saying? That doesn't make sense, she replied, her voice shaking. I know what I saw, Lisa, Grace said firmly. I'd never lie about something like this. Lisa Johnson was a devoted mother of twin 9-year-olds, Ellie and Ethan, and the owner of a small boutique in Atlanta, Georgia. She spent her days helping customers find the perfect outfits while managing the business's endless demands. Though life was busy, she found joy in providing for her family. One evening, after a particularly hectic day at the shop, Lisa felt an unusual tug in her chest. Something wasn't right. The vibrant streets of Atlanta, usually a comforting hum of life, felt oppressive as she closed the store early to head home. When Lisa arrived at her quiet suburban house, she noticed something strange. The usual noise of Ellie and Ethan playing in the yard was absent. Even the comforting sound of cartoons from the living room was missing. Her unease deepened as she stepped inside. As Lisa pushed open the door, she was greeted by her younger sister, Grace, who had moved in with them to help take care of the kids. Grace stood by the staircase, her face pale, her hands trembling. Lisa, we need to talk, Grace said, her voice barely a whisper. Lisa set down her purse and kicked off her heels, her heart sinking. Grace was always the steady one. If she looked this shaken, something was seriously wrong. What's going on? Lisa asked, her voice calm but firm. Grace hesitated before finally speaking. It's about the twins. I saw something upstairs and I don't know what to do. Grace explained nervously. I was downstairs making lunch when I heard noises coming from Ellie's room. When I went to check, Ethan ran out, and Ellie, she wasn't wearing any clothes. Lisa stared at her sister, disbelief washing over her. What are you saying? That doesn't make sense, she replied, her voice shaking. I know what I saw, Lisa, Grace said firmly. I'd never lie about something like this. Lisa's legs felt weak as she tried to process the accusation. Could her innocent children really be involved in something like this? Lisa climbed the stairs slowly, her heart pounding in her chest. She found Ellie and Ethan sitting on the couch in their room, their faces lighting up when they saw her. Mommy, they exclaimed, running to hug her. For a moment, Lisa forgot everything Grace had said. But then, she pulled away and sat down. We need to talk, she said, her tone serious. Aunt Grace told me something, and I need you both to tell me the truth. Ellie and Ethan exchanged confused looks. What did she say? Ethan asked. When Lisa explained, both children denied the claim vehemently. Aunt Grace is lying, Ellie insisted, her wide eyes filled with innocence. Lisa wanted to believe her children. Their words and expressions seemed sincere, but Grace wasn't the type to make up stories. Torn, Lisa pressed further. Are you absolutely sure? She asked. Mommy, we didn't do anything wrong, Ethan replied, his voice trembling. Ellie nodded in agreement, tears welling in her eyes. We promise. That night, Lisa couldn't sleep. As much as she wanted to trust her kids, the unease wouldn't leave her. What if there was something she was missing? Over the next few days, Lisa kept a close eye on Ellie and Ethan, trying to notice any changes in their behavior. They seemed as playful and innocent as ever, which only deepened her confusion. One afternoon, while cleaning Ethan's room, Lisa stumbled upon something strange. Tucked inside his drawer was a pair of Ellie's underwear, folded neatly among his clothes. Lisa's stomach dropped. She called Ethan into the room, holding the underwear in her hand. Ethan, why is this here? She demanded. His face turned red as he stammered. I don't know, Mom. Maybe Aunt Grace put it there by accident? Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't adding up. When her husband Mark came home that evening, she told him everything. He listened carefully, his face growing tense. Lisa, they're just kids. Mark said finally, You're overthinking this. It's probably nothing. But his dismissive tone only frustrated her more. They're 9, Mark. 9. This isn't normal, Lisa argued. But Mark waved her off, unwilling to entertain her suspicions any further. A few days later, Lisa came home early again. The house was eerily quiet and her heart began to race. She walked through the living room and upstairs, noticing that Ellie's bedroom door was slightly ajar. Pushing the door open, Lisa froze. Ellie and Ethan were lying on the bed, completely naked, their small bodies intertwined. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. "What the hell is going on?" Lisa screamed, her voice shaking with shock and fury. The twins jumped up, their faces pale with fear. "Mom, we didn't do anything," Ethan cried, but Lisa wasn't convinced. When Mark got home that evening, Lisa told him what she had seen. He was furious, though not at the children. "Lisa, this is your fault. You're making something out of nothing," he yelled, pacing the room. Lisa was stunned. "My fault? Mark, are you even listening to yourself? Something is wrong and we need to figure it out." But Mark refused to discuss it further. Feeling alone and desperate, Lisa made a decision. She would install hidden cameras around the house to get to the bottom of this, no matter what it took. A week later, Lisa reviewed the camera footage late at night. What she saw shook her to the core. The footage revealed Mark sneaking into Grace's room, his shirt unbuttoned, as Grace welcomed him with open arms. But that wasn't all. Another angle showed Ellie and Ethan tiptoeing to Grace's door, watching the scene unfold. Their innocent faces were filled with curiosity as they imitated what they saw later in private. Lisa's stomach churned as the realization hit her. Her children were mimicking what they had witnessed between their father and Grace. The next morning, Lisa sat at the kitchen table, her laptop still open with the footage paused. Her hands trembled as she took deep breaths, preparing herself for what she was about to do. Mark came downstairs, yawning and oblivious to the storm brewing. "Morning," he said casually, grabbing a cup of coffee. Lisa slammed the laptop shut, startling him. "We need to talk," she said, her voice sharp. "I know what you've been doing with Grace. Don't even try to deny it." Mark froze, his face draining of color. "Lisa, he started, but Lisa wasn't interested in excuses. "You betrayed me. Worse, you've corrupted our kids with your disgusting behavior. How could you?" she hissed, her voice breaking. After Mark stormed out of the house, Lisa turned her attention to Grace. She found her in the guest room, folding laundry as if nothing was wrong. "We need to talk." "Now," Lisa said, her tone ice cold. Grace looked up, startled. "What's wrong?" she asked, feigning innocence. Lisa didn't bother with preamble. "I saw the footage, Grace. You and Mark. How could you do this to me? To my family?" Grace's expression shifted from surprise to defiance. "Lisa, it's not what you think," she said. "Mark came to me because he felt neglected. You've been so wrapped up in work and the kids that you didn't notice how lonely he was." Lisa's anger flared. "You're blaming me? You seduced my husband and let my kids get caught in the crossfire. Pack your things and get out of my house. Now." That evening, Lisa gathered Ellie and Ethan in the living room. She knew they were too young to understand everything, but they deserved to know the truth, at least part of it. "Kids," she began gently, "Aunt Grace won't be staying with us anymore. And your dad, well, he'll be away for a while too." Ellie frowned. "Why? Did we do something wrong?" Ethan added, his voice trembling. Lisa pulled them close, hugging them tightly. "No, sweetheart. None of this is your fault. Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices, and it hurts the people they love. But I promise I'll keep you safe." The next morning, Lisa contacted a divorce lawyer. Sitting in the sleek office, she recounted everything. The affair, the footage, the effect it had on her children. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Rachel Carter, listened carefully, jotting down notes. "This is a clear case of marital misconduct," Rachel said. "And given the impact on your kids, we could push for full custody. But it's going to be a fight. Is that something you're ready for?" Lisa nodded, her resolve hardening. "I'll do whatever it takes to protect my children." When Mark received the divorce papers, he was furious. He showed up at Lisa's boutique unannounced, his face red with anger. "You're really doing this?" he demanded. "Dragging my name through the mud? What about the kids?" Lisa stood her ground. "You should have thought about them before you cheated on me," she said, "and before you turned our home into a toxic environment." Mark scoffed. "You think you're perfect? You've been so busy playing the martyr that you didn't even notice your own kids acting out." His words stung, but Lisa refused to let him see her falter. Realizing the toll the situation was taking on Ellie and Ethan, Lisa enrolled them in family therapy. The sessions were held at a cozy office downtown, where a kind therapist named Dr. Morgan welcomed them with a warm smile. During their first session, Ethan hesitated before saying, "We saw Daddy and Aunt Grace kissing. Is that why Mommy's mad?" Lisa's heart broke, but she stayed composed. Dr. Morgan nodded gently. "It's okay to feel confused or upset, Ethan. Let's talk about how we can all work through this together." As the weeks passed, Lisa began making changes at home. She redecorated the house, transforming it into a brighter, happier space for her and the kids. Grace's room was turned into a playroom, and Lisa even started baking with Ellie and Ethan on weekends. One evening, while making cookies, Ellie looked up and said, "Mommy, I like it when we're happy like this." Lisa smiled, her heart swelling with determination. "Me too, sweetheart. And we'll keep it that way." One evening, Mark showed up at the house unannounced. He looked disheveled, his usually confident demeanor replaced by something almost desperate. "Lisa, can we talk?" he asked. Lisa hesitated but let him in, keeping her guard up. "What do you want, Mark?" she asked. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I made a mistake. I let things get out of hand, and I'm sorry. Please, let me make it right." Lisa shook her head. "It's too late for that, Mark. The damage is done. My focus now is on our kids, and I won't let you jeopardize their well-being again." The day of the custody hearing arrived. Lisa dressed carefully, her lawyer's words echoing in her mind. "Stay calm. Be honest. Focus on the children." Mark sat across the courtroom, his lawyer whispering in his ear. The judge listened as both sides presented their arguments. When it was Lisa's turn, she spoke from the heart. "My children deserve a stable, loving environment. I'm committed to giving them that, no matter what it takes." Mark's lawyer attempted to paint Lisa as overly controlling, but Rachel countered with evidence from the footage. By the end of the hearing, the judge seemed to lean in Lisa's favor. The court granted Lisa full custody, with Mark allowed supervised visitation. It was a victory, but Lisa knew the fight wasn't over. She remained vigilant, determined to protect her children from further harm. Ellie and Ethan seemed to thrive in their new routine. Therapy helped them process their feelings, and their bond with Lisa grew stronger. One evening, as Lisa tucked them into bed, Ethan whispered, "Mommy, I feel safe with you." Tears welled in her eyes as she kissed his forehead. "That's all I ever wanted, sweetheart." After the custody battle, Lisa focused on building a life where Ellie and Ethan felt secure. She became more involved in their school activities, attending every recital and soccer game. The children began smiling more, their laughter filling the house again. At her boutique, business was booming. Word of her resilience spread through the community, and customers admired her strength. Lisa even started a line of personalized jewelry inspired by her journey, which became an instant hit. One day, her neighbor and friend, Karen, dropped by with coffee. "You're like a phoenix, Lisa," Karen said with a grin, rising from the ashes and shining brighter than ever. Lisa smiled, realizing how far she had come. One evening, Lisa attended a community fundraiser at the local library. While helping set up, she met Chris Walker, a widowed firefighter with a warm smile and an easygoing charm. "Need help with that?" he asked, pointing to a heavy box she was struggling with. Lisa hesitated but nodded. "Thanks. It's been a while since I've had someone else do the heavy lifting," she joked. Chris laughed. "Well, I'm happy to help." As they worked together, they talked about their lives. Chris shared stories about his daughter, Emily, and Lisa found herself opening up about her kids and her boutique. By the end of the evening, Chris had her laughing, a sound she hadn't heard from herself in a long time. Chris began stopping by Lisa's boutique, first under the guise of buying gifts for his daughter, then just to chat. He was careful not to overstep, sensing Lisa's wariness. One afternoon, as he lingered by the counter, Lisa asked, "Why do you keep coming back?" Chris smiled. "Because you seem like someone who deserves to smile more often." Lisa blushed, feeling a warmth she hadn't experienced in years. "It's not that simple," she said softly. Chris nodded. "I get it. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere." Meanwhile, Mark's life was unraveling. The affair with Grace had ended shortly after the custody ruling, and he was living in a small apartment on the outskirts of town. His visits with Ellie and Ethan were tense. The children were polite but distant, and it broke his heart. One day during a supervised visit, Ethan asked, "Why did you hurt Mommy?" Mark was caught off guard, his eyes filling with tears. "I made a mistake, buddy. A big one." But I love you and your sister more than anything. Ellie crossed her arms. Then why didn't you think about us before? Mark realized he had a long road ahead if he'd ever wanted to rebuild their trust. Dr. Morgan continued to guide the family through therapy. During one session, Ellie admitted, "I don't know if I can forgive Daddy. I want to, but it's hard." Lisa encouraged her. "It's okay to feel that way, Ellie. Forgiveness doesn't happen overnight." Dr. Morgan added, "It's a process, and it's for your peace, not his. Take your time." Ethan, more forgiving by nature, chimed in, "I just want us to be happy again." His words reminded Lisa of the importance of creating a nurturing environment for her kids, even if it meant co-parenting with Mark. Lisa decided to expand her boutique by opening an online store. She enlisted Karen's tech-savvy teenage son, Jake, to help set it up. Within weeks, orders started pouring in from all over the country. One day, as Lisa packaged a shipment, Ellie asked, "Mommy, can I help?" Lisa smiled, handing her a box. "Of course, sweetie. This is a family business now." The boutique's success gave Lisa a newfound confidence. She realized she was capable of creating a life that was not only stable, but thriving. Chris began spending time with Lisa and the kids, always careful to respect their boundaries. He took them to the park, taught Ethan how to throw a football, and listened intently as Ellie talked about her latest art project. One afternoon, while they were playing, Ethan asked, "Are you going to be our new dad?" Lisa froze, but Chris knelt down to Ethan's level. "I'm just a friend right now, buddy, but I care about you and your mom a lot." Later, Lisa thanked Chris. "That could have been awkward, but you handled it perfectly." Chris smiled. "I told you, I'm not in a rush. You're worth the wait." One day, Lisa received a text from an unknown number. It was Grace. "I need to talk. Please." Against her better judgment, Lisa agreed to meet. Grace looked haggard, a shadow of her former self. "I came to apologize," she said. "What I did was wrong. I wasn't thinking about anyone but myself." Lisa listened but kept her guard up. "You didn't just hurt me, Grace. You hurt my kids. That's not something I can easily forgive." Grace nodded. "I understand. I just needed to say I'm sorry." Lisa left the meeting feeling conflicted but resolute. She wouldn't let Grace's presence disrupt the life she had worked so hard to rebuild. Mark began taking steps to better himself. He attended counseling, quit drinking, and focused on being a better father. During one visit, he brought a scrapbook he had made with photos and memories of their family. "I know I can't undo what I've done," he told Ellie and Ethan, "but I want to show you that I'm trying to be better, for you." Ellie softened, flipping through the pages. "I like this picture," she said, pointing to a family trip from years ago. Ethan nodded. "Me too." It was a small step, but it gave Mark hope. Months later, Lisa stood in her boutique, watching Ellie and Ethan play in the new playroom she had built in the back. Chris walked in, carrying a tray of coffee. "Thought you could use a break," he said with a grin. As they sat together, Chris asked, "So where do you see yourself in 5 years?" Lisa laughed. "Happy, whatever that looks like." Chris raised his cup. "To happiness, then." For the first time in years, Lisa felt at peace. She had survived heartbreak, rebuilt her life, and found love, not just with Chris, but with herself and her children. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was hers, and that was enough. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the bell notification for more stories like this. And give this video a thumbs up. Click on this next interesting story.